recorded.
So should we give this a few more minutes?
Yep.
Okay.
I think that, I don't think Carrie, is Rocha here?
I believe, let's see.
Not from what I can see. Nor Carrie for that matter, unless he's on under a different name.
I was actually searching Steve Gabba's old emails for the Zoom link, and it was last year. I was like, no, I don't think this works.
I think Carrie McGinnis might be coming in now.
Okay.
Did you unmute yourself?
Carrie, it's Dominic Credisco. I think you should be able to hear me now.
Yes, I do.
Ah, good. Yeah. You're here as well as Supervisor Wojciechowski and Virginia Scott so far. So we haven't formally started the meeting yet, but it should be starting.
Okay. Mhm.
We have Rocha on yet?
Not to my knowledge. Sir.
You might, Josh, want to send her the link like you sent it to me.
Yeah, no, I did. All right, let me.
Hmm.
Okay.
I've sent it as well. Ah, she's joining now.
Okay, shall we get started?
Hi, Josh.
Hi, Rocha. Hey, Jenny. Hey, Jen. Hey, Carrie.
Guys.
Hello.
Hello. All right, so we're all here, it looks like. Okay. As you're probably aware, Dominic's filling in for Dave tonight, so he'll be hosting the meeting and providing counsel to us. All right, so I'm going to call the meeting to order, and let's say that, I'm going to say the Pledge of Allegiance. So I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. So before I start, I just want to say one thing. This is the first meeting that I am, acting as town supervisor. I just want to say that, it is a, an honor for me to serve in this capacity and to serve the residents of Cornwall for the next 2 years. And I'm looking forward to working with the new town board to, hopefully do some good things for the residents over the next year. And, with that, let's get the reorg meeting started. So the first thing we have to do is there's a resolution for salaries of officers and town employees. So let me just,
Wait, Josh,
yes, I'm sorry. Oh, sorry.
a
Sorry.
public comment first?
Yes, public comment. Are there any members of the public that wish to speak about any items on the agenda? No?
They they do have the ability to unmute themselves. They could also raise their hands if they're in the app. The other thing that we could do is go around and unmute everybody and see if there's any comment. There's also,
I think we'll just give it a minute. Let's see if anyone has any comments, and then if they do, they can raise their hand.
And raising your hand, I mean, you could either unmute your video, raise your hand, we could see it the old fashioned way. Or if you're in the app, there's a tab at the bottom. On my screen, it says reactions. If you click on that, it says raise your hand. Bless you, Jen. And so, we can see it that way.
Okay, well, seeing as though there are no public comments, let's move on. First up is the resolution for salaries of officers and town employees. So let me just read the resolution. Whereas under the budget system, it is mandatory, the town board of the town of Cornwall must fix salaries of all town officers and employees of the town, either elected or appointed, and determine when the same shall be paid. It is hereby resolved that this town board shall fix the salaries of the following town officers and employees for the fiscal year 2022, beginning January 1st, 2022, at the amount respectfully stated, and that such salaries shall be payable at the times and periods respectively specified. I hereby, Supervisor Wojciechowski, offer this resolution as read. Can I get a second on that?
Second.
Thank you, Carrie. Let's, sorry. Do you have any questions, Jenny?
Okay, I just, I know maybe we can talk about this in closed session. I did receive an email later this afternoon, and since it's a personnel issue, I do want to talk about it in closed session.
Yes, no, I know. Yes, absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Okay, let's, all right, so we have, let's call the roll on that.
Scott,
Sorry.
I said, let's call the roll call on.
Oh,
on
what
the-
order are we gonna go in? Or are we
Okay, you
going
know what?
alphabetical, or are we going, because the order of the resolution, how are we doing this? I'm
So,
sorry.
okay, I'm sorry, the way they have it is it's myself, then Councilmember McGinnis, then Ropsha, then Virginia.
that the way you want me to go, Josh?
You know what, let's start with Virginia and then go through and finish with me.
Okay. Okay, Ms. Scott,
Okay, yeah, we'll talk about this, but yes.
Ms. Michael Rossi. Ms. Michael Rossi,
Yes, sorry, I was muted.
Mr. McGinnis,
Yes.
Mr. Wojciechowski.
Yes. All right, motion is passed. Next is the mileage reimbursement. All employees will be reimbursed at the IRS 2022 standard mileage rate at 58.5 cents per mile for use of their personal vehicle for related town business. I, Supervisor Wojciechowski, hereby offer this resolution as read. It looks like if you look at it, it's going to increase to 58.5 cents per mile driven. That's up 2.5 cents from the rate of 2021. Can I get a second on the mileage reimbursement?
So moved.
Was there a first? I'm sorry.
Oh, yeah, so moved on the first.
Yes.
Then
Then
need a second.
Second,
Thank you.
I'll second.
Thank you, Carrie. Let's call the roll.
Scott,
Yes.
Ms. Michael Rossi,
yes,
Mr. McGinnis,
Yes,
Mr. Wojciechowski.
Yes. Motion is passed.
Before moving on to the next matter, if I may, Jen, if you could move the microphone closer to you, if it's possible. You're coming in and out, and I think that's one of the challenges. We're only hearing the second half of what you're saying.
Okay.
Thank you. That's much better. All right. Thank you.
Mhm.
Okay. Let's move on to the resolution. It's the authorization for supervisor to invest monies and to submit and publish the annual report. Whereas the supervisor is charged with the duties of the chief fiscal officer of the town of Cornwall, we do hereby authorize that office to invest in interest-bearing certificates of deposit and or treasury bonds, savings accounts in accordance with the town's written investment policy as provided under state law. Be it hereby resolved that the supervisor be authorized to invest the town monies in order to secure the best rate of return for the town, and that monies may be deposited, invested in any bank or trust company incorporated in the state of New York or under applicable federal statutes. B, authorization for the supervisor to submit annual report and publish same within 60 days in the official newspaper. I hereby, Josh Wojciechowski, offer this resolution as read. Can I get a,
So
Sorry.
moved.
so
moved.
thank you. Can I get a second?
second,
Thank you, Carrie. Let's call the roll.
Scott,
Yes.
Ms. Michael Rossi,
yes,
Mr. McGinnis,
yes,
Mr. Wojciechowski.
Yes, motion is passed. Next up is the resolution designating the official depository for the town with the effective date of January 1st, 2022. Whereas under section 64 of the town law, it is provided that the town board of the town of Cornwall shall designate by written resolution the banks or trust companies in which certain town officers shall deposit the monies coming into their hands by virtue of their offices. Now therefore be it resolved that the town, that Sterling National Bank, Mid-Hudson Regional, and Orange County Trust, the Newburgh branch hereby be designated as depositories in which the supervisor, town clerk, receiver of taxes, court clerks shall deposit all monies coming into their hand by virtue of their office. And be it further resolved, this resolution be entered into the minutes of the town board as prescribed by law. I, Josh Wojciechowski, hereby offer this resolution as read. Can I get a motion on that?
so move,
Second.
Thank you. Thank you, Virginia. Let's call the roll on that.
Scott,
Yes.
Ms. Michael Rossi,
yes,
Mr. McGinnis,
yes,
Mr. Wojciechowski.
Yes, motion is passed. Next up is the resolution for town board meeting dates. Be it hereby resolved that the town of Cornwall Board during the year of 2022 will hold monthly work sessions on the second Tuesday of every month at 7 p.m. And regular monthly meetings will be held the third Tuesday of every month at 7 p.m. On the occasion of any needed emergency meeting, the date can and will be set by the town board for carrying out the necessary duties of the said board. Scheduled meetings which fall on a town holiday will be held on the following evening. I, Josh Wojciechowski, hereby offer this resolution as read. Can I get a motion?
so
So
move,
moved.
second,
Thank you, Carrie. Let's call the roll on that.
Scott,
Yes.
Ms. Michael Rossi,
yes,
Mr. McGinnis,
yes,
Mr. Wojciechowski.
Yes, motion is passed. Next up, we're going to, we have the resolution designating the official newspaper for the town of Cornwall. Be it hereby resolved that the Cornwall Local will be named the official newspaper for the town of Cornwall for all purposes of conducting all official town business effective January 1st, 2022. I, Josh Wojciechowski, hereby offer this resolution as read. Can I get a motion?
So
second.
moved.
Go ahead.
Thank you. Can I get a, let's call the roll on that?
Scott,
Yes.
Ms. Michael Rossi,
Yes,
Mr. McGinnis,
yes,
Mr. Wojciechowski.
Yes. Okay, next up is a resolution appointing the attorney for the town. Be it hereby resolved that the firm, Drake Loeb, be appointed, attorney for the town of Cornwall effective January 1st, 2022. I hereby offer this resolution as read. Can I get a motion?
So moved.
second,
Thank you, Carrie. Let's call the roll on that.
Ms. Scott,
Yep. Yes.
Michael Rossi,
yes,
Mr. McGinnis,
yes,
Mr. Wojciechowski.
Yes. Motion is passed. Next up is the resolution appointing the town engineer. Be it hereby resolved that the firm MAG Consulting and Engineers be appointed engineer for the town of Cornwall effective as January 1st, 2022. I, Josh Wojciechowski, hereby offer this resolution as read. Can I get a motion?
So moved.
second,
Okay, let's call the roll on that.
Scott,
Yes.
Ms. Michael Rossi,
yes,
Mr. McGinnis,
yes,
Mr. Wojciechowski.
Yes, the motion is passed. Let me just get to this next. Next up, we're gonna move on to the appoint the planning consultant. If I can ever get through to this. Okay, here we go. Resolution to appoint the planning consultant. So be it hereby resolved that the firm Blanken Tully Engineering and Surveying PC be appointed planning consultant for the town of Cornwall effective January 1st, 2022. I, Josh Wojciechowski, hereby offer this resolution as read. Can I get a motion?
So moved.
Thank you. In a second. Thank you, Carrie. Let's call the roll on that.
Scott,
Yes.
Ms. Michael Rossi,
yes,
Mr. McGinnis,
yes,
Mr. Wojciechowski.
Yes, the motion has passed. Next, we have a resolution appointing the accountant. Be it hereby resolved that the firm of Nugent and Hassler PC Certified Public Accountants be appointed the accountant for the town of Cornwall effective as January 1st, 2022. I, Josh Wojciechowski, hereby offer this resolution as read. Can I get a motion to approve?
so moved,
Thank you.
second.
Second.
Let's call the roll on that.
Scott,
Yes.
Ms. Michael Rossi,
yes,
Mr. McGinnis,
yes,
Mr. Wojciechowski.
Yes, the motion has passed. Next up, we have the appointment of the marriage officers. Be it hereby resolved that Jennifer McCormick and Josh Wojciechowski be appointed marriage officers for the town of Cornwall effective as January 1st, 2022. I, Josh Wojciechowski, hereby offer this resolution as read. Can I get a motion to approve?
so approved,
second,
Thank you, Carrie. Can I get a roll call on that?
Scott,
Yes.
Ms. Michael Rossi,
yes,
Mr. McGinnis,
yes,
Mr. Wojciechowski.
Yes, motion is passed. Next up, I have a resolution for the Association of Towns dues. Be it hereby resolved that the town of Cornwall has the authorization to pay dues to the Association of Towns of the State of New York in the amount of $1,500 for the year 2022. I, Josh Wojciechowski, hereby offer this resolution as read. Can I get a motion to approve?
So move.
Second,
Thank you. Let's call the roll on that.
Scott,
yes.
Ms. Michael Rossi,
yes,
Mr. McGinnis,
Yes.
Mr. Wojciechowski.
Yes, motion is passed.
Jen,
Yes.
I'm only hearing Scott,
Oh, okay.
just so you know.
Okay.
Okay, so next up, let's get to here. Next up, we have a resolution to adopt the town's procurement policy. Be it hereby resolved that the town board of the town of New York adopt the current procurement policy. I, Josh Wojciechowski, hereby offer this resolution as read. Can I get a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Can we get a roll call?
Ms. Scott,
Yes, thank you.
Ms. Michael Rossi,
yes,
Mr. McGinnis,
Yes.
Mr. Wojciechowski.
Yes. Motion is passed. Let's see here. All right, so next up, we have supervisors committee appointments. I am announcing that I'm appointing Win Gold as deputy supervisor. Win has been a Cornwall resident for decades. He sat on the planning board, comp plan committees. He's been the chair of the town's economic development advisory committee. He's been the chairman of Riverfest, and he's led the local Boy Scout troop for many years. I'm very pleased to be appointing Win to this position. So that's the deputy supervisor. As far as the other committees, I'm still working those out. We're going to finish those at the January 18th meeting. But in the meantime, myself and Win will serve on all of the committees until we work those out by the January 18th meeting.
Could I, Josh, may I ask a
Yes.
question?
Yes.
Okay, so we know that the role of the deputy supervisor is basically to oversee the meetings, the town board meetings, work sessions in your absence. Dominic, any kind of, I guess, clarification? Mr. Gold is, yes, he has his qualifications, but he is not an elected official. For him to be proceeding over committees and being involved in decisions, is that something that a deputy supervisor would be doing?
Deputy supervisor, I believe, can participate in committees, town committees.
Right, just like if you went for the public, right? If you're a member of the public? Okay,
Correct. I mean,
Thank
they
you.
are, yes.
okay.
Dominic, is there any conflict with Win being on the planning board?
Oh,
Uh,
that's right.
That is a very good question. That's something that we are researching. Steve Gaba has looked at that. There
Okay.
is nothing, I could give you a long answer. I could give you a short answer. I am an attorney after all, but there's no absolute bar as to whether or not a deputy supervisor who is a non-elected official serving in that role must give up a seat on either a planning board or zoning board of appeals. Those are appointed positions.
All right.
We are also, we're also reviewing guidance, however, from the Association of Towns and the Department of
Okay.
State, who issue opinions on such matters. And we're looking to see if it has come up in the past. But I can tell you that we are confident that it's not, that there's not a provision in state law that says you can't do both, but there may be an advisory opinion saying that you shouldn't do both.
Right.
And we just don't have an answer on that latter part of it yet.
Okay,
Yeah, and so I just want to make it clear that when we decided to do this, that we did seek out the advice of counsel to look into this matter, and we will do whatever they recommend us to do. So we're not,
Yeah.
yes.
I'm not,
Yep.
like I said, I wasn't privy to that information. So thank you, Dominic, for clarifying. I have one more question. I don't know if this is the right time or not, since we're on this topic. I do know that in the past, a deputy supervisor sometimes was a member of the board, that elected member, and then that we've had in the past where we've had deputy supervisors that were not elected. It's my understanding that the town board basically needs to decide whether or not the deputy supervisor participates in terms of closed sessions. I do know that by law that they're not a voting member, but I'd like to find out when's the appropriate time that we actually look at that.
If that question is directed to me, I mean, you're absolutely correct. That a deputy supervisor who is not an elected official is not a voting member. As to a closed session or a executive session, the board does have the ability to invite in,
Right.
those who are necessary for the board's discussions
Right.
in that case, or for information.
Okay.
So I think it'll be
Okay, so-
on a, yeah.
Okay, so my other question is, I mean, do we decide this tonight? Is this in stone? Because I have another question, but I'm not sure if this is the right time to be asking the questions.
I mean,
Oh, offense, I'm just
that's
trying to
it's up
get
to
the right
this.
answers.
It's up to the supervisor as to the discussion at this time. This particular appointment is an appointment that's made by the
Oh,
with the
absolutely.
discretion of the supervisor.
Oh, absolutely. I know it's the supervisor's prerogative. That's fine. My question is, there's 2 points. I know in the past, and I've been, involved where I've seen the deputy supervisor who is not elected. They do not sit with the town board. They sit in the audience. The deputy supervisor does, fill in when in the absence of the supervisor. I totally understand that. I just want to clarify those things and find out how everybody else on the board feels. Or do we talk about that in our regular board meeting?
You know what? We can talk about this in closed session later if you'd like.
Okay, thank you. Like I said, I appreciate it.
Okay.
Congratulations, Wayne.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, so moving on, we've got the town board appointments. So we have the deputy receiver of taxes. That's going to be Janelle Cartwright. We still have a vacancy with the tree warden position. It's my understanding that you have to have some skills and qualifications to do this job in towns over a certain population. So we can't just have anyone that
Right.
wants to be a tree warden step into the position. So if anyone knows anyone, please send them my way. Simon Gruber to the Moodna Creek Watershed Council rep. Anthony Encano as the alternate rep. Kurt Hahn for the emergency management director. There's an attached list of town holidays. And then there's also an attached list of committees, boards, and bureaus. As far as the zoning board, we don't have any vacancies on that currently. The planning board, we may or may not have a vacancy. We'll have to determine that based on the advice from council.
I didn't see an attached list though, Josh.
Yeah.
Oh, you just have to go, as you scroll through, you'll get the Board of Ethics, the Board of Assessment and Review. There's a vacancy on that. John Alva had to resign from that. There are some reappointments to the Conservation Advisory Committee. It all should have been part of the packet. If you flip through it, there should be the page 25 of the reorg.
Mhm.
Page,
Do you have that, Virginia?
I just got the hard copies today, so what I'd like to do is I'd like to make a motion to table the appointments of the committees until I've had a chance to read through this.
Sure, we can put off those. I mean, nothing everything is the same as it was prior to January 1st. But we can certainly do that if you need time,
Yeah,
more time.
yeah,
to
because
review.
I just flipped through there's some of these new committees, and I really want to be able to talk to you. Because when we talked on Monday, I didn't know about these things, so thank you.
Sure. So let me see here. Are you referring to the supervisors committee appointments or to the actual town board appointments?
Well, I didn't see any of the committee.
Both of them.
Yeah.
Both of them, to be perfectly honest. So I think we need to, I personally need some time to really make a thorough, like, understand what I'm voting for.
We're already tabling the supervisors appointments until the 18th. So if you want to
Okay, that's fine.
table the appointments for the, for the regular standing committees, we can, that the board appoints, we can do that as well.
I think that would make sense to me, it would, but I'm
I
going to
agree.
listen to the rest of the board.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, so we won't approve of those. So let's see here.
I think that's,
I think that's it.
wow.
Yeah, I mean, but you know what, before we, just to let the public know, we do currently have vacancies on the Economic Development Advisory Committee, the Sands Ring Board of Trustees, the Board of Assessment and Review. We have received letters from other members of the public wishing to seek reappointment to their current spots on the committee. So, please take a look. We've got 2 weeks and we can, come back at that in 2 weeks.
Yeah, it's a good opportunity to fill those vacancies.
Yeah,
Yes.
absolutely. Absolutely.
This meeting is being recorded.
Okay, so is there any public comment on any of the remaining? Is there any public comment before I move on to the work session?
This will be an opportunity for any general public comment, not on the agenda items that were opened up earlier. And once again, if there's any members of the public here, you should be able to unmute yourself. I've given out that flexibility, and so anyone that's here can unmute yourself. We don't have so many people that it would become crazy or unmanageable, or otherwise you can also raise your hand either by unmuting your video and raising your hand or doing it through the app.
Hi, this is Carla Castillo, 69 Hasbrook Avenue, and Chair of the Cornwall Conservation Advisory Council. There are 4 members of the current CAC that are up for reappointment. I had really hoped that those 4 members could be reappointed tonight. We've been waiting since November and December, most of us. Those are myself, let's see, Aaron Siliquini, Kate Krimsky, and Francie Schuster. I have all of those requests for appointment were submitted to former Supervisor Randazzo and were resubmitted to Supervisor Wojciechowski. So I'm a little disappointed that we can't move forward, at least with those appointments, given that we have all been working on the CAC for a bit now. Thank you.
Nicholas Moran, 187 Mountain Road, Cornwall, Hudson, New York. I was just want to make general comments about, I hope that the first congratulations to Supervisor Wojciechowski and the new town board. But I hope that this new town board will take seriously the climate crisis as more scientific articles come out about the dire straits we're in, the Thwaites Glacier collapsing in the near future being one of the large bits of news that we've had recently, but we've seen Kentucky and wildfires everywhere, and the tornadoes and other natural disasters, whether it be Virginia right now with the snowstorms. But I hope that the town board will take the climate crisis seriously. We're already dealing with it over the years, recently with Ida, and we invest and deal with that as appropriate as we can. Thank you.
Is there any more public comment before we move on to the work session?
Hey, Josh, Mike Nielsen, 17 Halverson Road. How are you doing?
Yes, hi. I'm very
Good.
good.
Is the traffic engineer online here tonight? Are we going to hear from him?
Well, yes. In fact, I see it looks like Rich from Collier's Engineering is here. I don't know if Phil is here.
Yes, Phil Greeley is here as well.
Okay, yes. So the answer to your question, yes. We are, yeah, it looks like you're number 3 on the agenda. We'll
So
have
my-
it as, yeah.
Go ahead. I'm sorry. So my question is, we issued a bunch of RFIs in. I just want to know what our responses are going to be back to us, and how we're going to be able to add into this meeting to talk to the engineer. I know there's 3 or 4 of us online here from this
We're-
problem.
We're gonna have a discussion with the engineer tonight, and then if there's stuff that's not resolved, or if we need another, special workshop, we can certainly do that, but I wanted to make sure that we got this on the agenda for the first meeting of the year. I know it's not ideal that we're remote for this, but I just felt this was, for the safety of the board and the community that we did this. So we'll, bear with
The
us.
recording has stopped.
We will, when we get to item number 3, that's when we can have the discussion about the traffic study with the engineer.
Okay, thank you very much. I'm sorry to just jump in there.
Nope, that's okay. So shall we move on to the agenda items? So first up, we have the Association of Towns annual meeting and training per diem. So normally, in a normal year, the Association of Towns has its annual meeting, which takes place, it's usually the 3rd or 4th week of February. It takes place in New York City. We went to one 2 years ago, in February of 2020, before the pandemic hit, if you can imagine that. We're all in person, unmasked. They are holding it in person this year. Last year was virtual. So what has been happening as of the past couple of days, it looks like a number of municipalities have been saying they're not going to be attending, and they're not going to be participating in the Association of Orange County Towns. They have like a hospitality suite, and a number of the municipalities have said they're not even going. So I think, due to safety reasons. So I think because we have we don't have to purchase any, we don't have to register and, for the conference and decide what we're doing for a few more weeks. I think we should wait to see what they do as far as their meeting. Maybe they're going to make it all remote. Maybe they're going to keep it in person, but I don't know that we have to make a decision on that tonight. So we'll come back to it on the 18th. Make a decision, right?
Sounds
That
good.
makes sense.
Okay.
I hate to lose the knowledge that we learned at this conference, but I think safety is paramount here. Next up, we have the Munistat Advisor Services Agreement, which we'll have to act on at the next at the meeting on the 18th. They are basically our bond market advisors, and they also provide other financial guidance to the town on financing of infrastructure projects. And so we're just looking, to authorize the town supervisor to sign that agreement again at the meeting. They've been our advisors for, many, many years at this point, and, we're very happy with them. All right, so next up, we have the Mailer Avenue Traffic Study Report. So how should we, I know you had a number of questions, the Mailer Avenue residents that are with us. Do we want to just let, maybe we should let the engineers just maybe address some of the questions that were asked?
I think it's a good idea. And then if there's any questions, they can follow up and ask Rich. Thank you for coming again.
Supervisor
No
Philip
problem.
Greeley from Colliers. I think just a quick introduction, and then Rich can kind of give a synopsis, because for anybody that's on the Zoom call tonight
This
that
meeting
wasn't
is being recorded.
wasn't available at the previous meeting, to just give kind of a quick synopsis. And then we had received, I think, a total of around 20 specific questions or comments, some of which we would be able to incorporate into a final report. But basically, I think we'd like to just give an overview for anybody who wasn't at the previous meeting, and then some of our recommendations to move forward, and then get maybe into some of the questions. So I think that would be kind of the order. I'll let Rich give kind of a quick synopsis of process and what was included in our speed evaluation, and where we go from here.
Yeah, so I'll keep it pretty brief since we did present here to the town before, but just to reiterate what we had done, we had collected some speed data ourselves along Mailer Avenue, and we're also provided with some other speed data that was previously collected by the town back in September of last year. And along with some other field visits and review of the speed data that was collected, we went through an analysis of the volume, the speed, the conditions along the roadway, and what the appropriate speed limit is for that roadway. In general, the other thing we did take a look at was the accidents along the roadway. We obtained accident data for the prior 5-year period to get an idea of any accident history along the roadway, which that in itself only identified 3 accidents along Mailer Avenue in that 5-year study period. So looking at the speed data, looking at the accident history, looking at the general conditions in the area, our conclusion was that the 30-mile-an-hour speed limit is kind of appropriate for that roadway. But we do understand that there are some vehicles that are traveling above that speed limit. And then what we kind of went through the process of is trying to identify what could be done to lower the speeds along the roadway closer to the 30-mile-an-hour speed limit. Because the one thing that, even if we were to present a report that supported a 25-mile-an-hour speed limit, the one thing that you have to understand is that that becomes an enforcement thing, because the condition of the road kind of lends itself to people driving the way that they do. People are going to tend to drive at the speed that they feel comfortable at, unless there's a significant enforcement presence along that roadway, or some other deterrent like traffic calming. So that's where we kind of went into some traffic calming measures that we had identified, which included striping of the roadway to narrow the lanes, which kind of gives the effect of a narrower lane, narrower path for vehicles, and tends to slow speeds down. We had identified maybe installing LED radar speed signs, which they flash your travel speed as you're passing those signs. We considered installation of speed humps or speed tables, which we can get into some more tonight. And then ultimately the consideration of a school speed limit zone, which one of the things I think we had talked about at the last meeting was that I was going to go back to DOT and get some clarification on whether or not that could be done in this location. The initial indication is that they think that it could be, but we have to do some more research on that. And so those were the 4 kind of things that we had looked at. And then, I think Phil, I think at this point, that was our consensus of our report.
I think, that's kind of a pretty good summary. I think procedurally, in terms of the request and the process to get a reduction in the speed limit, I think we can, finalize our report, incorporate some of the comments or suggestions, and there were some good suggestions from the public, and give a better understanding, of the operations and the type of road it is, in terms of the number of homes, the driveways, the closeness of some of the houses to the road, and other factors, so that if the county is reviewing this and is making a recommendation that, then goes to the state DOT, that they have all the parameters, okay? But again, we can package that so that we can go down that road, forget my pun, but, to look at getting the speed limit reduced. However, at the end of the day, in our experience, and this is not something that's unusual requests for communities, especially with a roadway like Mailer Avenue, okay? Horizontally, it's a straight road. There's, some vertical alignment changes more up near the north end, but, it kind of encourages, speed from a standpoint of it's a straightaway. So at the end of the day, and our experience in other communities is it always comes down to an enforcement issue, because if you post it at 25 miles an hour, basically people are going to travel at the speed they feel comfortable on the road. And, some of the items we'll get into a little bit more detail on in terms of cut through traffic or the amount of traffic in the area. But, one of the other things you'll find out in some of the other communities where we've done these studies, we've found that some of the people that are speeding actually live on the road. So at the end of the day, the enforcement issue becomes very significant, okay? And it requires manpower. There are some other ways to deal with it, but the most successful way that we found to really bring speeds down are some of the items Rich mentioned, especially looking at speed tables. We had a project that we helped the town on in the town of Yorktown in Westchester County. It's probably at least 10, 15 years ago. And a similar type of roadway, about, over a half a mile in length. The character on that roadway, and the road is called Strang Boulevard. The one section of it connects from a state highway. One section has some commercial development, but then it goes into a residential area. The homes are not as close to the road as some of the homes on Mailer Avenue. However, there are numerous curb cuts, driveways, and over the years, they, always dealt with enforcement, and it just became very onerous for the town to keep on top of it. So they ended up installing a series of, in that case, I think there were almost 7 speed tables that were installed. The first one that was installed was actually closer to what's called a speed hump, which is to get speeds down to like 15 to 20 mile an hour range. The town then modified that and then proceeded with the rest of the speed tables, and it brought the speeds down, and it helped the situation. They didn't have to worry about enforcement as much because the geometric change to the road was such that traffic couldn't go much faster than 30 miles an hour, and it brought most of the speeds down below 25 miles per hour. There are some other examples in that town where they tried to do these and they weren't as successful. There is a section in the town of Yorktown where speed tables were installed on a road that had speeds of over 40 miles an hour, closer to 45 miles an hour. And they installed, and there were no driveways along this particular road. It was only intersections. It was a true collector. And they installed slightly different speed tables there. And that brought the 85th percentile speeds, which is what we usually focus from a design standpoint on, from the mid 40s down to the mid 30s. And that was significant in terms of bringing, cut through traffic and the speeds. And again, in that particular neighborhood, a lot of the people that were speeding on the road lived in part of the neighborhood. but those are the most effective. In more recent years, we've done some of these speed limit signs. The cost has come down in terms of their installations, and psychologically, drivers tend to see, okay, if it's 30 miles an hour, sometimes people don't realize how fast they're traveling, especially on a straightaway. So on these signs, they'll put your, the posted speed, and they'll put the speed you're traveling at. Now, in some communities, they ran into a situation where teenagers says, oh, this is great. Let's see how fast we can go. Well, we can register. But in general, they have been very successful of identifying for the drivers that, hey, I better slow down. I'm doing, 34 miles an hour, and it's a 30-mile-an-hour zone. But, it doesn't require, quote, the enforcement, but it's there as a added measure. Some of the methods of restriping lanes to make them appear narrower can be helpful. The big thing relative to the speed tables, and they're not speed bumps, they're not, very abrupt, they're more gradual. So emergency services tend to find that they're okay. The highway superintendent is going to have to weigh in on anything like this, of course. And there are some that are opposed to them, but in general, the example I use in the town of Yorktown, they've been there for 10 years through some major snowstorms. They're on school bus routes, and they function. Some of them need some repairs. One of the roadways was resurfaced from when it was originally installed, but they're still functioning. And other than striping, it's asphalt. The placement of them have to be determined on a road like this. It gets a little tricky because of the number of driveways. You have to be very careful about drainage. But I think this road is a candidate, no matter what happens with the speed request to the county, to consider this and have some discussions with the highway superintendent, maybe some discussions with some other municipalities, and to discuss the effectiveness. But at the end of the day, that right now, that's really kind of the end result that we have. I think we can go down the path of beefing up our report, incorporating some of the factors that residents have, raised to make the reader at the other end understand it. I think the people in town understand it. We understand it, but if there's someone at the county or the state that's reviewing this, they want to have the complete picture. So with that said, I think we can prepare a formal response to each of the comments. As I said, there were about 20 comments or suggestions. Some of them are pretty straightforward. There were some comments about, that we have speed, we observe speeds over 60 miles an hour. Well, if you look at the data, with any type of data collection, there's certain items that you have to kind of just disregard. And if a vehicle, for example, hits a sensor coming out of a driveway, it can create an errant, recording. But, in the whole scheme of the data that we have, there's one or two data points that get thrown out, but they don't affect the end result. They're statistically not significant. So, but Rich, I think that was pretty much everything we wanted to cover. As I said, there were numerous other comments. I think the exploring the speed school limit does make sense. There was a comment that was raised relative to possibly installing, similar to what at Lee Road, where we have the all-way stop intersection, doing that up at the north end of the roadway, at one or two of the cul-de-sac roads there. One of the problems that you get into, stop signs are not supposed to be used for speed control. It's spelled out in the state manual. It's not something that's used in that case. Typically, when you would put in an all-way stop control intersection, you would want the volumes on each approach to that intersection, at least at certain times of the day, to be relatively balanced. I think on those two cul-de-sacs, there's somewhere between 6 or 8 homes. So clearly the amount of traffic relative to the volume on the total roadway doesn't fall in that category. We will look at it a little further, but again, the typical guidelines and the manual of uniform traffic control devices does not allow stop signs to be used for speed control. So,
Thank you.
Thank you. Do any of the residents on Mailer have any questions for the engineers, for the town board?
They should be able to unmute themselves.
Hey, good evening. This is Jeremy Schlegel, 123 Miller Avenue.
Hi, Jeremy.
Hi, Jeremy.
So I guess great to see you. So the question that I have from the report, thank you for offering to formally respond to the questions. Those were put together by 2 Zoom meetings collected by the residents. So that should be the kind of gist of most of the comments, and some of them you did answer verbally, but a written response would be very helpful. And mostly so that as we proceed forward, that we can proceed forward educatedly, whether a speed reduction is possible or not. We've kind of been stuck in the middle of the enforcement issue because they will not pull over someone until they exceed that 35-mile-per-hour mark on Mailer. And so we agree it is an enforcement issue. But as you mentioned, voluntary compliance is really key. So we're definitely interested in looking at some of these other measures. My question is, as we move forward, it seems like a comprehensive solution is really best, that it might be easiest to pick a speed sign and that would be cheapest. And that it might be a few years before or a few months before we can get into a speed table design. But what is the ideal end state from what you've seen on this road? What would the compliance ideal end state of lowering our 85th percentile speed be, especially including that we do currently have tar and chip as our base on the road, and we have many times of year where we have residents parking down our road for games at the middle school or other events that are going on. And so I wanted to offer those 2 bits and also then ask, what is the ideal end state for a road like ours?
yeah, I think based on our experience in other locations, I think a combination of the signs, the signing with the speed indicator, the radar speed indicator. And I think you would probably want to have not just one, you'd probably want at least 2 of those along the roadway. The cost range on those, they have come down, but I think the most recent ones I've seen are somewhere between 7, by the time they get installed, and whether they have enough sunlight to work off of solar or whether they have to be hardwired. The range, Rich, is what, maybe 7,500 to as much as 12,000 if you're dealing with full powered.
Yeah.
And then in turn, and that's something that could be done, relatively quickly. Okay. You could see whether or not there's any, real benefit. I think overall, my experience has been that they are not a heavy maintenance item once they're installed, as long as they get adequate sunlight. The solar lasts for several years, and the battery replacements are relatively easy, and they're effective. Again, that could be done very quickly. I think we would look very strongly at the speed school limit. The initial indication from DOT in this case is that, they thought it was a possibility, which again, I think people do respect in general. But the speed tables, assuming that emergency services and the highway department, because remember, they have to plow the roads, that they could be installed, and we have found that those are the most effective long-term solution, together with the signing. So.
Thank you.
And I think the other point, Phil, was just that there's not really any one thing that we recommended that precludes the other.
Correct.
So if we were to do the LED speed sign, because we can do that quickly, then it takes a little more time to get the school speed limit in, and we can do that after, and then the speed tables take a little bit longer too. Those can go in after that. None of these things can't be done with each other ultimately. So
Correct.
So just, let me just say real quick, I know the residents had some questions for the town board, and so I want you to know that, essentially, we are going to pursue, having, submitting something to the county to try to get, to try to get them to then pass it on to the state to get the speed limit reduction. So we are going to try that. We're not going to, we're not
Yes.
saying we're not going to try it. We are. We're going to try it. We're going to see if we can get it. We're going to try to bolster the report and see what we can get. But that's not going to be the end of this. If we can't get that, we'll pursue the school speed limit. We will also pursue some of the other traffic
Traffic calming.
yes, the traffic calming strategies. So we're gonna find us, we're gonna, keep pursuing this until we find something that, works for the residents. It just may take a little bit of time, but if I'm gonna ask, the engineers to answer some of those questions that you have on this report. I'll talk to them offline after this meeting, and we'll try to figure out next steps, and then whether or not it makes sense to bring them back again or to have it, we'll figure out next steps. Do any of the board members have any questions about this or comments?
I just honestly think it's a matter of let's find out. There's going to be a trial and error. I agree with you, Josh, and we'll just keep working at it with the residents of Mailer Avenue, and I'm looking forward to see the rest of your answers that were actually asked by the residents.
Mr. Wojciechowski, I'm sorry, this is Felicia. I got in a little late. I apologize. I just got into the tail end of that, but I think one of my questions, and Jeremy, I'm sorry if you've already asked this, is I know we've been talking about this for a short term with all of you recently, not going back years ago with this group, but with this, I just keep hearing with both before and now, we'll see what the next steps are. My question is, what time frame are we looking at for next steps? Because I would not like for us to be here 3 months down the road and we're still waiting for next steps.
So we wanted to have this meeting tonight with the engineers, and so now that has happened, I guess this is the question for the engineers. How long does it take to put together a traffic reduction report to submit to the county? Because there's going to be a certain timeline to that. And then there are certain traffic calming. I imagine there's not much work we can do to the roads during the winter. So I don't know, there are certain traffic calming strategies that we probably can't do until the spring. That would be, as far as some of the other things like that, like the radar, the portable radar sign thing that goes on a pole, that might be something that can happen sooner rather than later. I just think that now we've had the meeting, so now I will, talk to the engineers to get a time frame on, how long it will take to submit something to the county, to reduce the speed limit, and then I will look into, what the time frame could be on acting on some of the traffic calming strategies, taking into account the time of year and when you can, do that kind of work on the road.
I think in terms of, Mr. Supervisor, in terms of, we wanted to just see if there were any other comments, from tonight.
Yeah,
We'll circulate our responses, and then we have the information, and to beef up the report and get a filing to the county. I don't know, Rich, what do you think? A couple of weeks?
Yeah, I would say 2 weeks, the long end of time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then parallel with that, we'll continue the conversation with DOT relative to the speed school limit. Because these don't have to be done one after the other. We can do them all in parallel. We'll get you some hard numbers on the
Okay.
radar signs and the availability. For that to be installed, that can be done any time of the year, really.
okay,
We would look at placement of where we would recommend placement of those specifically. And if there are locations where we feel that we can do a solar installation, that's the simplest.
Yeah.
So I think, getting things moving relatively quickly and in parallel so that you're not waiting for one thing to finish and then go on to the next is the approach that we would take in coordination with the supervisor.
yeah, that sounds good. I mean, I know there is just one question on here that from the residents, they had mentioned, what are we gonna do to plan for when the Main Street Bridge is being closed to be repaired and traffic coming down Mailer? I think until we're gonna be having that's actually a later agenda item. We're gonna be having a meeting on January 27th at Munger Cottage to talk about the county's plan to replace the bridge at the top of Main Street and what that's going to mean for like traffic flow and having to divert traffic around Main Street. And I know the residents are maybe concerned that that will increase traffic down Mailer so they can get to, since people will have to go down Willow, then come down Mailer and then, get on 9W. So we're going to have to, that's something, I don't know that I can answer that tonight. That's something that we're going to have to work, after we have the meeting with the county on the 27th. We have an entire year to work this out, but we will certainly, I would ask that, that the Mailer Avenue residents be engaged in the process for planning for, the impacts of moving all that traffic off of Main Street.
Yeah, and one of the things that relative to that if the county doesn't already have it, is what's called the work zone traffic control plan that the contractor has to put in place. And that's something that you would be able to review, have input on, durations, lane closures, because how I don't know how they're doing the bridge, whether it's just one full replacement. We've been involved with some where they do a partial replacement. But again, we could probably assist you a little bit with that. But I think there's things that could be done. The most important thing is probably duration and working into whatever contractor they have doing the work, that there's penalties and or incentives to get the work done sooner. And again, just diverting traffic and giving routing so that, one particular road doesn't get overwhelmed. There's not a lot of options, but again, I think that work zone traffic control and the procedures, if they're spelled, out in the contract, it can hold the contractor's feet to the fire to get done quickly.
I do want to comment on that. Looks like we have three options of school speed limits, radars, and speed tables. I do want to know which one of these could we immediately install without having the resident wait for another 3 months. I mean, the radar seems like to be the first one to go because it doesn't.
That's correct. That would be correct.
installment. So
That would be the shortest duration item. The school speed limit, we're going to talk to the DOT again and get you a timetable on that. The review by the county and the state on the long-term, the speed reduction request. There's really no control over that time frame. And really, you wouldn't do anything relative to speed tables until at least late spring, after the snow has been finished in the highway department.
I do want to back you up with knowing the speed tables. They're very effective. I often go to Fort Lee, New Jersey, Bergen County.
Yes.
And they are all over the place and they are so effective. The driveways are very close to each other. It's
Yes.
a very high density area. And I have every confidence that with your engineering firm, we could install them on Mailer Avenue with no problem.
Is there any more questions before we move on?
I see a
Yes.
hand up.
Felicia?
She's muted. She has to unmute.
Yeah, she needs to unmute.
Okay, sorry about that. So I'm cautiously optimistic about what I'm hearing this evening and some things that can be done, like now rather than a year from now or 3 months from now. So I am cautiously optimistic. And I know that there will be some increased traffic along all of the roads here in Cornwall with what's going on Main Street. One of the, and as Jeremy had said and others have said, we are concerned about the volume of traffic, but with the volume of traffic, the issue is, yeah, there's volume, but it's the speed at which they go, but even the buses, the school buses. So having said all that, I'm cautiously optimistic. Jeremy, did I miss something?
No, I agree, Felicia. Thanks folks for really pushing forward on this and also doing a fairly thorough study and just getting it in writing, I think will be helpful for future discussions. The last question I had was with regard to the TSM that you attached, sir, to the report, indicated that the US Limits sign or US Limits website was a great resource for small towns just like ours, who are trying to wrestle over speed limits. And I know 30 miles per hour for New York is kind of the gold standard, but they were leaning toward the reduction to a lower than 85th percentile for roads that have a lot of driveways and residential driveways accessing it. So if I can make one final request, that is highlighted more thoroughly, or also get your opinion if there are weaknesses in that US Limits site, because the New York State DOT seems to put a lot of stock in what that site says.
Yes.
When it's reviewing its own requests. Thank you.
Yeah, just to address that quickly, we did run the analysis from the US Limits 2 that they recommended in TSMI. It does support the 30-mile-an-hour speed limit, but we're going to take another look at that just before we finalize that study.
All right, so if there's no more questions, let's move on to agenda item number 4, the FY 2022 budget. Board members, you should have received, we've got 2 spreadsheets that you should have received in your packets or also emailed to you. And basically I had Pam, our bookkeeper, put together some info related to the town's FY 2022, and just looking ahead to the FY 23 budgets. The first sheet is the latest numbers on our projected fund balances after entering in all of the end of year information for the main operating accounts. And if revenues and expenses stay according to the plan for FY 2022. So in FY 2022, we appropriated 2.7 million of the fund balance to balance the budget. We won't be able to do that in FY 23. As you can see from the numbers, there will be next to nothing left. If you look on the bottom, it's going to show fund balance to expenditures, and it's going to list the 5 main operating accounts that we use to fund town services. And if you look in there, at the end of this operating year, there's not, there may be a few $100,000 left in the general operating account, the general fund, that could be applied to the FY 23 budget next year, but that's not a guarantee, and that's only if things go to plan. If you look at the other accounts, there's going to be next to nothing left because we have to stay above 10% in those accounts. So the current tax levy is, and then if you look at the second sheet, that's basically going to show you the amount that the tax increase that would be required in FY 2023, because we're not going to have $2.7 million in fund balance to apply to the budget next fiscal year. And in order to fund services for the entire town, we're going to have to levy those in taxes. So that's going to mean if we have to increase the tax levy next year by 2.7 million, because we have no fund balance to apply to that, it's going to be an 85% increase, or, it means cuts in services and programs. So we're going to have to monitor this very closely throughout the next year, adjust as needed. As we get through the winter, probably at the end of the first quarter, we'll come back and we'll look at this again, and we'll see where things come in after the winter. But look, overall, this is just something we're going to have to pay attention to very closely throughout the the year, and just be prepared, for the budget process in the fall. So these are all the numbers that you have. If you have questions about the backup for this, which Pam, the bookkeeper, prepared, you can certainly reach out to her. She'll be happy to answer any questions. Come in and talk to her. But these are Pam's documents that she prepared for me, to be handed out to the board so you guys could know where we're at. Are there any questions? Okay, so then if there's no questions, let's move on to the Della Vedova estate. And so, as you may remember, last fall, the Della Vedova estate bequeathed $50,000 to the town of Cornwall for the purposes of maintaining River Light Park. In exchange for that, we have to put a plaque somewhere in the park. And once we do that, then we are free to spend the money towards the upkeep of the park. Obviously, there's probably going to be certain restrictions to this. And so after this meeting, I will reach out to Sarita Bendarkar from Bendarkar Law, who is who's handling this, because she's got probably has some of the details on this. And once I speak to her, the town board's got to decide, where to put the plaque, and then how best to spend the remaining money, the remaining, tens of thousands of dollars on the park for the best use of the, of the residents. So that'll be, I'm sure this will be an ongoing discussion. Are there any questions about this?
So it's earmarked specifically to the maintenance of the River Light Park. That's it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So I just think we have to determine what, maintenance, what can, we spend in order, what types of projects and maintenance, are covered by this? Do we have wide latitude, or is it very narrow?
Okay.
So we'll have to.
And what are the needs?
Well, yeah, well, exactly. Yes. What are the needs? Yeah.
Yes.
So yeah, first and foremost, yeah, I mean, given that we, do have a situation where we don't have as much money in the in the general fund this year, this may help us to be able to maintain, the park in an adequate manner. So yes. Next up, we have the liquor license application from the Farmhouse Market on Main Street. They currently have a liquor license, but it's not, they're looking to open up some type of like wine bar, cocktail lounge that serves small plates. They currently have, I believe it's a off-site consumption license, like the kind that, that a supermarket or a convenience store would have to sell beer and cider. That's not the right type of permit. So they have to apply for a full on-premise permit. And so, they're required to provide 30-day advance notice to the local municipality. And so, I don't see any reason to not let them move forward with this. If there are any if they are going to be making major changes to the space, they will have to go and get the appropriate, work with the building inspector and the building department. But as far as the permit, I don't see any reason to not let them apply unless there's, you guys have any reasons. Next up is the HGTV Hometown Kickstart project. So, as you know, Cornwall was chosen as one of the 6 projects across the country. You've probably noticed, them filming in different locations around town. On Tuesday, you may have noticed that they placed a bunch of objects on the Bridge Street, on the Bridge Street Bridge, tables and chairs and benches and planters and greenery, and so that was placed there in order for them to be able to film the final reveal of the public project, which is taking place tomorrow on Bridge Street around 1:45 p.m. And so where the town board comes into this is basically part of the agreement that Mr. Randazzo signed with HGTV was that the town board would have to decide after the filming was complete whether or not they were going to keep the items that are on the bridge or whether or not HGTV was going to return them. And so part of that is in order for us to keep the items on the bridge, we have to reimburse HGTV for the cost of the items. I've asked them for an itemized bill for those items. I was told that the total amount is $7,000 for the items. And so what we have to do is tomorrow after the reveal, over the next couple days to a week, we have to know that let them know of our intention of whether or not we're going to keep this stuff or not. And if we are, the board's going to have to authorize spending $7,000 to keep those items, or if there's something else to be worked out with them. There is $54,000 remaining in the Main Street Beautification Fund, so that is a place where we could take the money from to pay for those items if the board chooses. But I would just say over the next couple days, go to the bridge, take a look at the stuff, come tomorrow, watch the reveal, go and take a look at it, talk to residents, and then we can have a discussion as to whether or not we want to move forward with that. But we don't have to decide tonight. I'm just sort of letting you know that this is the what has to happen. Yeah.
Why is there such a short turnaround time for us to make a decision on this? Because you're only saying it's like we're gonna have 2 days to decide on this?
Because they're going to take this stuff away, Ginny.
Right, so
Yeah, so
like I
let me-
say, that's okay.
So let me just say something real quick with this. So basically, yes. So after the reveal, if we don't decide within a day or two, they are going to take it away. But if we need more time, let's say till the 18th to make a decision, we can work something out where they will store it off site. They have to see what the time frame is for them to return the items if we decide not to. So they want us to work within the time frame of them having to return the items. So
right, because I
yeah.
want to go back to what we did vote on this, that this was no, I know we're talking about using grant money, but when we agreed to this, that the town was not liable for any expenses. So I do want to remind that is originally what we voted on, if you recall.
But that was a previous administration.
Right,
Yeah,
but
I
I
mean,
was part of that administration, so that's what I'm trying to say. I do recall the history of it. I'm not saying I'm not going to do it, but what I'm saying is we did vote, on this, and the way that it was presented to us, that the town was not going to be liable for any expenses. The agreement that our town attorney went over for us before we actually entered into the agreement. So I just want to remind, that's the background on this.
No, and Jenny, I very much know that. What I'm saying is that,
No, we're in agreement. I get that. I'm just,
Yeah.
I want the public to
yeah,
know.
so, no, and look, and so the board has to decide, what it wants to do. If the board can't come to an agreement on it, then yes, the stuff will have to go back to HGTV and, they'll have to take it back. There's also a sculpture that is going to be placed there tomorrow as well, and the town board will have to decide. That is being lent to us for a period of 2 years under certain conditions, and so the board will also have to decide if it wants the sculpture to remain, on the bridge and what's required to keep it there. So those are all things that we have to,
All are part of it.
yes. So we all have to,
Right, right.
So unfortunately, this is just the timing of this. I mean, I wish that it wasn't so, but,
Right.
so,
I did walk at, and I did look at it. It does look nice. It actually gave, some ideas of inspiration as well. So, it is lovely, and unfortunately, I won't be able to see the reveal tomorrow, but I'm sure everyone is going to really enjoy it.
okay. So we will, I will send an email out to the board after the reveal, and we'll figure out the next steps on this and the timing and,
Okay.
everything that's required on that.
Sounds good.
Okay, so the next part of, so the next thing we have is COVAC, basic life support, and then New Windsor Volunteer Ambulance Corps advanced life support contracts. Plus we have a special joint meeting between the town and the village, which is going to be next Tuesday, January 11th at 7 p.m. Essentially, as you recall from last year, the pandemic has really made it difficult for COVAC to provide, BLS service in Cornwall for financial reasons, for other reasons. And so the town last year had to step in and, fund COVAC, for about 6 months. And so, here we are again in January, the town has to decide the same thing again. And so the pandemic is still with us, and, COVAC is still having issues providing, BLS services to town residents. And so it's gotten to the point where, the village and the town, we have to decide which direction we're going in for 2022 and what's the best way to ensure BLS services and ALS services for residents. And so this will just be a much more fuller discussion. We really can't do that tonight at this meeting, but I'm just, letting everyone know that that's what, is going to be on the special meeting, and that is next week on the 11th. I don't know if you have any questions, feel free to ask, but okay. Next we have we already spoke about this, but we have the Main Street Bridge Replacement Public Workshop. So Thursday, August 27th at 7 p.m. at Munger Cottage. Is going to be the County Public Works, the Commissioner, I believe Eric Deneg is going to be there, the County Engineering Consultant, County Legislator Kevin Hines, members of the Town Board. Hopefully the Chamber of Commerce will send some reps, and we can, we can have a what I would call a public workshop on the bridge project, and we can, start to sort of socialize with the public what the plans are, what the bridge might look like, any of the impacts, the duration of the impacts. I know this isn't happening until 2023, but believe me, we want to work this out now, and and not give adequate attention to working out the impacts for the businesses and the residents. So that's going to be the first public workshop on this. If you have any questions, let me know. The next thing that I have is the American Recovery Program funding. And so, as you know, the town received its first tranche of funding last July, a little less than $500,000. We've allocated less than half of that money to date. You may recall we gave bonuses to town employees for all of their hard work during the pandemic. We've reimbursed the town for PPE and other COVID expenditures, and we purchased backup generators for some of our sewage treatment plants. And so this July we get the second half, which is again a little under $500,000. So what I would propose we do is, I've spoken to some of the board members about this, and, we believe that we should focus the spending on infrastructure, because that's gonna have the most impact, for the most residents. And so, I would kind of put that at the top of the list. And we also have a number of FEMA grant applications that are outstanding for some of the areas that were hit by Hurricane Ida. And so I would say that, let's wait and see what happens with some of those projects before we go and commit the spending and, $700,000-800,000 on other projects. But we have until July before we receive the second tranche. And we may also know whether or not we get funded for any of these planning grants or construction grants. So in the meantime, let's put together some type of informal committee, board members, members of the public, maybe some, committee chairs. We can work this out behind the scenes, but let's work on a list with infrastructures at the top. And then if we don't have to spend the money on infrastructure because the FEMA grants come through, maybe there's other projects that we think should be a priority. So let's start, discussing what some of those should be. So this way, when the money comes in July, we're ready to go. So that would be my suggestion. But, before we spend a penny of this, I would like to, make sure that, we wait and see what happens with the FEMA grant.
Sounds good, Josh.
Yes, it does.
Okay. Next up, we have the COVID-19 test kit procurement and distribution plan. So as you know, the county has given out rapid at-home test kits to municipalities for distribution and their communities. Cornwall has, we've only received, we received 180 kits. 45 went to the village, which was per the instructions of the county, share the kits with, the villages. And then another 15 went to the Canterbury Fire District, leaving us somewhere around 120 test kits. Each kit has 2 tests in it. So, for right now, I believe that it's best for the town to keep the kits for first responders, essential employees, town employees, because we need to be able to test our workers and the first responders to make sure that we can continue to provide vital services. If the county should happen to come through with more test kits, either, by giving them to us, or if we have to procure some from the county, then we can figure out a distribution process. I mean, I know, New Windsor has been giving them out. You've all heard about the town of Montgomery giving them out, and other municipalities, but we just don't have enough right now to do that. So I think until we come into some more, we have to keep them for the, priorities. But I want to mention that tomorrow, we have until 5 p.m. tomorrow to submit a request to the county to purchase test kits through them for $9.75 each. And so I would like to a few hundred test kits. We can reimburse the town through use of the ARPA money, and then FEMA is reimbursing towns at different percentages fully for test kits. So it would sort of be like, let's say we submit for 200 test kits, which is what I would propose. That would be roughly $2,000. We'd pull the money out of ARPA to cover it out of the ARPA funds, and then we would submit a public assistance request to FEMA to get reimbursed by FEMA for the $2,000. So this would then give us a few hundred test kits that we could, have on hand. We've been having residents call the clerk's office and the supervisor's office, saying they can't get a kit. Do you have one? I would like to be able to have some on hand to give to residents in the event, if they're sick and they need a test, or if they're like a senior and they can't leave their house. So I would like to be able to have some on hand. So, I would like to, get support from the board to purchase a few hundred.
Sounds good, Josh. Being proactive right there.
So, well, yeah, and actually, can I get a I guess a voice vote on the authority to purchase 200 kits for $2,000?
Yes, I would say yes.
I'll say yes.
Yes.
Okay, yes. Okay. All right, so we'll get that over to over to the county tomorrow morning. And we should have those in about a week. In the meantime, maybe the other kits that were promised by the county, maybe the county will get their supply from California or New York State, and we'll get even more. Once we have enough kits on hand, I'll reach out to the board and we can work out, if we have enough, we can do a much more broader distribution plan, but if it's only a few hundred, we'll probably just give them out at town hall.
Would you do it outside of town hall so that we make sure that, I hate to say it, we can protect our town
Yes.
employees?
Yeah.
Because I know the
yeah.
emergency rooms are begging people not to come in to their emergency rooms if they think they have COVID for tests. So.
Yes, no,
Public health.
we'll do a contactless exchange, however that can happen.
Exactly.
So, all right, next we have the New Windsor IT contract and website redesign. So the New Windsor IT contract was, I believe, last signed during the Quigley administration. So that goes back a number of years. They would like us to sign a new contract. I've given you the new updated copy they provided me the other day. And so I would like to act on that at the January 18th meeting, if there's no objections to it. As far as website redesign, talking to New Windsor IT, they believe that our website is obsolete, that it needs to be updated. They are going to put together some quotes on what it would cost to update it. And so once we have them, then we can also consider if we want to go outside them to update it, or stay or have them do it. But we'll kind of take this one step at a time. Once I have the quotes, I'll share them, and then we'll see if we need to get more quotes. The building department. So there's a memo in there from the building inspector who is requesting that the town board raise fees in order to keep pace with the rising costs of providing the services to residents. The last time we raised those fees were a decade ago in 2012. And so a lot has happened in, 10 years. And so we think it's, he's presented this to me. I think it might be time to raise fees, but obviously the board has to take a look at this, decide if we think it's the right time to do it. There's the old fee schedule and then a proposed fee schedule that that the building inspector and Diane put together. So, we'll obviously, this will probably take a few more meetings to discuss and to decide upon, but that's something to consider. Next, we've got the FEMA. So we have the FEMA planning and construction grants, which are different from this. This grant is basically municipalities are eligible for reimbursement for their costs related to cleaning up after Hurricane Ida. And so we've been asked to put together a spreadsheet of all the costs, waste removal costs, labor costs, temporary repair costs, permanent repair costs, put it together. Right now, we're somewhere around $70,000 with, I believe, more to come and then over the next week. So we submit this, and then, at some point, FEMA then hopefully approves it. They reimburse the town for what we spent, cleaning up after the storm. That'll come back into the general fund. This is also includes the replacement of the bridge. So I don't have an exact dollar amount on that, but I know that the plan is to, they are going to be giving the town money to build the bridge, actually better than it was before. So that is one thing they said. It doesn't have to be an exact replacement because that wasn't the best. So they said they're going to fund a bridge at a better bridge than was there before. So once we have those dollars in hand, there's the engineer believes that the bridge could be fully built and replaced by August, September of 2022.
You're talking about,
That's what's that?
which bridge you talking about?
The one on Continental.
Okay,
The
yeah.
Continental.
Actually,
Yeah.
what was there were 3 culvert pipes that washed out.
Right.
Yeah.
Replaced a bridge previously to that. So yes, it definitely needs a bridge.
Yeah. So hopefully, I mean, I know it seems like a long time, but as you know, it takes time to get the money in and then, do the design, so it's going to be, hopefully early, August, September of 2022, that bridge is up, it's all done, ready to go. So that,
And it resolves the problem.
yes, absolutely. Next up, we have, so I know in the reorg meeting, we just approved all of the town's consultants. It is, my intent to put out RFPs, requests for proposals for the consultant positions we have, get them back, take time to evaluate, and then decide, sometime later this year, whether or not we're going to keep who we currently have, whether or not we're going to change them out. It's been a number of years since we have, looked at this and done this. And because we didn't do this last fall before the reorg, we're kind of starting in the middle of the cycle, but I would like to do it, this year. So we're going to get the RFPs out, we're going to get back responses, and then we're going to just, decide. But that is my plan, to get RFPs out. Let me see. Next up, zoning. So in February, I have asked the planner and the town attorney to put together a memo of possible changes that the town can make to make our zoning and use codes less burdensome for businesses to open, expand, and operate in our commercial districts. And there may be other changes that we want to make as well. And so I believe we can start this process in February. I'll ask them to send a memo around to the board once we have that, and we can start this process hopefully in February. Next, we have state legislative capital grants. As our state legislators have been very generous with us over the years, and so that process, we had the state of the state today by Kathy Hochul, and so the budget process will be formally starting. So between now and the budget being adopted, our state senator and state assembly member will be asking us to submit requests for capital projects. So I would ask the board to think about what some of those projects are. I know first on my list is getting a capital grant to finish the work on Bridge Street. It still has to be resurfaced. We only fixed below the bridge, not the surface. So that's going to be one I'll be looking to submit.
When is is there a certain deadline that we need to have those things in by, Josh?
So what I would say is, let's get them by the first week of February. If I recall, last year, the state senator put up, the first week of February. Yeah, last year he put up a Google Doc to capture all the information from municipalities and nonprofits.
Okay.
And if I recall, the date was sometime in, I think, February it was due. But I mean, I'll check with his office.
Thank you.
Next, we have the EDAC Explore Cornwall Marketing Initiative. They are going to, I don't know if Steve Jones is here tonight, the chair of EDAC, but I've asked them, they're going to be coming on January 18th to give a presentation on that. So that's happening. Let me see. All right. Next, I have a status report from our engineers on our I&I and sewer plant projects that we have. So, I mean, look, basically, some of the work has started. If you take a look and you just read through these documents, you're going to see what we're going to be looking to do. The wastewater treatment plant, Shore Road Phase 2, that is bidding for that is going to start late March with anticipated completion the fall of 2023. The I&I project, it looks like the completion of that work is going to be somewhere around the beginning of June. So, you can take a look, you can sort of see exactly what's being done. But it's definitely something we're going to want to keep an eye on. I mean, it's a large project, it's a lot of money, it's important to the town. So, at some point, maybe in February or March, whenever it's appropriate, I'll talk to the engineer. I'll ask him to come on and maybe give answer any questions that the board members have about the project. Okay, the Main Street parking RFP. So we received the second proposal today from I know the last proposal was somewhat high in price. The second proposal came in today, and that, if you take a look at that, let me just see, I believe that's like 25 or 27,000, somewhere in that amount for that one.
Yeah,
I
it was
have,
27,000.
Yeah, 27,000. So I've asked a few other firms to submit RFPs for this, and I would say that we wait to see if we get them. And if we don't by, let's say, the 18th, maybe we leave this open another month, and then we decide if we're going to go back to any of these firms and ask them to scale back the size, what the work we want them to do to get the cost down a little bit. But I say we wait to see what comes in. So there's that. All right, so next is winter parking for Main Street properties. So if you look on the town's website, we currently have something posted. It's essentially, as you remember, after the snowstorm last year, we started allowing residents on Main Street to park in the town hall parking lot if it's going to snow more than 2 inches, and they had to, leave their information with the dispatch. So we believe a better method is to have them directly email Chief Hazard at chief@cornwallnewyork.gov. So this way he gets it directly versus having the residents call dispatch. And then if they're not there, it goes to the 911 center, and, it kind of confuses the situation. So, we're going to continue to allow that for Main Street residents. We will, I know it's going to potentially snow on Friday. I don't know how much, like, the amount keeps changing, but hopefully it goes down to 0. But,
Exactly.
We'll post this on Facebook, and we'll make sure that it gets out there to the residents on Main Street, so that this way they know they can park there and that they should notify the chief should they leave their car there. I think is there any questions about that? Oh, I've spoken to Tommy. I've spoken to the highway superintendent and the chief on this, and they're good with continuing this policy.
Yeah. I mean, I just want to emphasize to the public, if I could, just please make sure that you follow through and do your part and email the chief. I know, like, last time we tried this, and we had 50% of the people, actually do this. It really makes everyone's jobs a lot easier. And we really do want to accommodate the public, especially during this situation. So please do that.
Yeah, I would definitely like to second that. We need your help.
I
with this as
agree
well.
with you on that one.
Yeah.
Yep. Right. Together we have to be part, right? We have to make this, have a solution to the problem. So, okay.
So, all right, next we've got senior citizen property tax exemptions. So, the town board, if it adopts a resolution on the 18th, it is going to allow, essentially, there's an executive order that allows municipalities to waive the renewal requirement for the senior citizen tax exemption, but we have to pass a resolution at the next meeting. We have draft language in here, and so, as long as you're okay with allowing this to happen, it'll be on the agenda on the 18th, and we will waive the renewal. I believe we did this last year as well.
Yeah, I think so.
So it's just basically doing the same thing we did last year. All right. So next we've got the Cornwall Garden Club plant sale. So I have a letter from the Cornwall Garden Club just requesting use of the Town Hall Park grounds for their annual plant sales. There's the dates that are specified in here. I mean, we've done this for 50 years or more. So, I would say that we're going to continue it for another 50 years. So that's just their request. I do believe we have to, there's a public event permit that I believe the town board has to approve. So I think that has to be on the agenda for the 18th. Next, we have the Cornwall Garden Club is requesting reimbursement in the amount of $650 to pay for expenses when they purchased decorative planters for the Shadan Circle. It's $650. They're requesting reimbursement, and I would, this can also be on the agenda for the 18th unless there's any objections by the board. You know, they do great work, so we obviously want to make sure that we keep the garden club happy. Let me see. So last, it looks like we have personnel. The highway superintendent is looking to appoint a sanitation driver, Richard Berardinelli. He's got the appropriate qualifications, a New York CDL license, and he's a Cornwall resident. He's got 20 years of experience of driving a truck for Coca-Cola. He's been previously interviewed by the previous supervisor, by the highway superintendent. Carrie, were you in a?
No.
Carrie, did you enter?
No, I didn't make that one.
Okay, so, I mean, you know, I would like to, you know, we're gonna put this on the agenda for the 18th. We'll go with Tom's recommendation. I know he's been interviewed by, you know, previously. You know, we currently have, you know, and so we're kind of, we need to start filling some of these positions in the highway department and, you know, in, you know, sanitation, because we're, you know, we've got this situation where we have folks that are sort of filling in for different positions, and, you know, we gotta start filling some of these open positions, you know, in order to make sure that we have proper services. So are there any questions? Board members have any questions before I move to public comments?
No.
Okay. All right, I would like to open it up for public comments. Is there anyone?
Once again, anyone who wishes to speak can either unmute themselves or raise their hand. I can unmute you, or just turn your video back on and raise your hand that way.
Hello, this is Greg Roby.
Yes,
Hello,
sir.
Greg.
Hi, Josh.
Yes, hi, Greg.
Congratulations on your opportunity to serve us. I look forward to seeing what you bring to the table. So thank you for putting yourself in the hot seat. And
Thank you.
I have placed in the comments, I presented to the board last year, and maybe this joint meeting coming up between the board and the village, because I also presented to the village, with the climate change happening and with the federal government finally changing insurance rates, we have a significant change coming down the pike. We don't have a lot of property in town that's going to be involved, but to do that transparently, I think will build us as a community. So I would encourage, considering, if not this next meeting, at some time in the not too distant future, beginning to wrap our heads around this. It's not going to be fun. It's not going to be easy. And as I said at the board meeting last year, we're a divided community here. We do have artificial intelligence through our social media feeding us to be crazy differently. And you get, and the board gets, to listen to crazy and figure out where we're going. So thank you.
Thank you, Greg. Is there anybody else?
Carla Castillo again. I would like to thank the board for this very informative work session. There was a lot of information shared, and it felt really great to hear a lot of background on the various topics. Thank you.
Thank you, Carla.
Just a quick question, Dominic. So I know we didn't, we're gonna have to adjourn the reorg, right, and then reopen it. So is that, when do we do that? I'm sorry.
Well, we kind of went straight in from the organizational meeting into the work session. And, you know, the open items that, you know, from that meeting, from that agenda rather, are the committee appointments as well as other town board and other town committee appointments as well. Those, as I take it, are tabled to the January 18th meeting. We then went straight into the work session, and you've now completed the agenda for the work session as well. We do have on here a closed session for advice of counsel.
Yes.
So what we'll need is and when you're ready, would be a motion and a second and a vote to go into a closed session. And that, as you said, will be for the advice of counsel. And we can either do it one of two ways. We could either end this meeting and then you can rejoin, end this Zoom meeting rather, and that will end the meeting for all participants, and the board members themselves would have to rejoin. Or everybody could be kind and leave the meeting like they would normally at town hall, where they would be asked to leave for a closed session. We can do it either way. In any event, this portion of the meeting has been recorded. We're going to post this to YouTube, and the link will be shared as well. So anyone that didn't get an opportunity to participate in the Zoom tonight or watch it or wants to watch it again will be able to do so. The way the closed session works is that the board, can seek advice of counsel during closed session, and then come out of that closed session and back into a public meeting. There would be that portion, once again, would be recorded. If there was any action for the board to take, not that I'm anticipating any, but the board would and should take it at the open portion of the meeting, that would be recorded. And if there's no action, then the meeting would just simply be adjourned. So we would come out of the closed session for the adjournment of the meeting overall.
Okay, so you know what? Why don't we? Is the board okay with leave? Yeah, sorry. Yeah, first.
Closed session. I make a motion that we go into closed session.
A second. That.
Second,
All right.
as a town board.
Yes. Call the roll.
We lost the first part of that.
Ms.
Jen.
Scott,
Yes. Sorry.
Michael Rossi,
Yes.
Mr. McGinnis,
Yes.
Mr. Wojciechowski.
Yes. Motion is passed.
Well, we still have a number of people here. You can either give them a moment, or I can end this meeting, in which case the board members would have to rejoin.
Oh, you're leaving.
It looks like they're dropping off. Let's see.
Yes.
There we go.
Could we possibly ask our deputy supervisor to stay?
You know what, Roksha, we're actually going to be talking about, so no, I think we're
No,
going to.
okay. I didn't know. I'm just asking.
I'm going to say in the future, I mean, I'll be real honest, in the future, this is the town board, and there are rules, and I would like to see them followed.
Who else is?
We have a couple people here.
Do
Let's see.
I stay, Dominic, or am I done?
You know, I mean, we're.
It typically would
I
just
was
be
going
the
to
town
say, we're
board.
not taking any.
So,
Yeah.
Okay,
We still have.
We will come out from the closed session. I'll restart the recording at that time. And that way you'll have, and we'll note the time that we come out, and also that the meeting's adjourned, so that your minutes can reflect that.
okay. So I'm done for now.
I would say so. I mean,
Yes.
technically, you're right. I mean,
Okay.
otherwise you would have to stick around, and we would call you back in for the, just the formal adjournment of the meeting.
Okay. All right. Good night.
Good night.
Bye,
Okay.
Jen. Thank you.
Good night, Jen. Thank you.
Thank you, Jen.
Oh, man, that was a long. Okay. All right, lesson learned. Don't pack too much on the first meeting, but sorry,
Only
everybody.
9 o'clock.
Yeah. Hold on, I'm gonna pause the recording now because it's only the board members and myself present.
All right, so let's get a motion to,
Okay,
let's get a motion to, I'm sorry. I'll let
motion, was the motion to
Come out of the closed
come out
session.
of closed session? Okay. You want a roll call?
Voice vote?
Yeah.
roll.
Yes, 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 yes.
Yes, yes, yes.
Mr. McGinnis, did you vote?
Yes.
Okay, I'm sorry, I didn't hear you. So yeah, so there was unanimous to come out of closed session. And if there's no other business before the board tonight, then motion to adjourn would be appropriate.
So move.
Second.
Aye, let's adjourn.
Thank you, Dominic. It was great having you.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, everybody.
Hope to see
Good
you
night.
again. Thank you.
Good night.
Everyone.
Take care.
Good night.
Yep.